Good morning, everyone. Suzanne Taylor-King here for another Friday live episode of Unlock Your Way with STK. And I am very excited for this conversation today with Bret Ridgway. And he is a children's book author with a deep, rich history in publishing, speaking, speaker fulfillment services, and we met a long time ago, had one conversation, and this is the deepening of that conversation. So I'm really excited to bring today Bret Ridgway. Welcome to Unlock Your Way.
Well, Suzanne, I'm so excited to be with you here today, and hopefully we can share a few things that will be of benefit to your listeners.
Yeah. I think what's really exciting about what you do, we talked a little bit before we went live about the whole unretirement movement. And that is so exciting to me that you've kind of reinvented yourself after a long career. You've embraced AI. Tell me a little bit about that lived experience stepping into doing something different. After what age and what prompted that for you?
Well, the age will be 68 in a couple of months, but
Nice.
three or 4 years ago, I guess it was, Suzanne, I was essentially forced out of a company that I had co-founded, and that was the fulfillment company. Now I was the face of the company, and I was the primary marketing guy, but it was sold off to an employee by my business partner, and they decided they didn't want me to be the face anymore. So I said, all right, Bret, what are you going to do now? Because the thought of getting up every morning, Suzanne, and saying, what the hell am I going to do today?
Right.
Just did not sound very appealing to me. So because of my background in the speaking industry, and I'll share a little bit about how we got to that at some point in time, I decided I would focus on doing some speaking consulting and all that. And I did some TEDx coaching for some people and some other things. But and I started actually a podcast called Spotlight on Speaking, where you were a gracious guest a couple years ago or so, and I would say you were a wonderful guest.
Oh, thank you.
And I did some speaking consulting, and for whatever reason, the silly phrase "crickets playing croquet" kept going through my brain. And to be honest with you, Suzanne, I probably didn't have as much passion for the speaking consulting as you really needed to have to make it a successful business. I mean, it kind of became a hobby thing. The podcast was a hobby, so to speak, and it wasn't going to be something that I long-term could get as behind of it as you really needed to make it as big as it could be. And so again, that silly phrase kept going through my brain, crickets playing croquet. And for whatever reason, I said, all right, let's sit down with some of these newfangled AI programs and see if I can generate a colorful cartoon image of crickets playing croquet. So I played around with several programs and finally decided on Google Gemini as what I would use because it was giving me the best output.
Okay.
And so I talked with, I sat down and yes, I could generate a good cartoon image of crickets playing croquet. So, well, there's got to be more I can do with this than that. So I talked to family and friends, and I talked to my book publisher of my business books, who also has a children's division. And they encouraged me to turn it into an alliterative A to Z book of animals doing different things. So think hippos playing hide and seek, chickens playing checkers, zebras ziplining, etc. And so I just, very methodically using the AI program went through and created an image that would go with that particular vision. And so I sat down and wrote a little 2-line rhyming poem to go with each particular caption. Now, I got to ask you a question here, Suzanne. So a couple weeks ago, I was talking with a consultant that somebody had referred me to. And oh my God, it was like I was the evil person of the world because I was using AI to generate my cartoon images for my book. Now, honestly, the book never would have happened if I had to pay an illustrator hundreds or thousands of dollars to generate 30 images or whatever. But this person was also an illustrator as one of the things they did. And I was killing the industry. I was contributing to the death of an industry. And it's like, oh man, I feel kind of bad.
Mm,
But it's
mm,
like, this isn't going to work if I have to pay an illustrator hundreds
right.
of dollars or thousands of dollars for every book that I want to generate. So, how would you respond to that, Suzanne, as you
Mm.
know, take on the situation?
Well, I've been prompted with that question so many times in my conversations, and my go-to is, well, I remember 30 years ago when I was a dental hygienist and working in a dental office, and when we wanted to send x-rays or patient information to another office, we used a courier service.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fax machine adapted and we were able to send x-rays
Oh, shame on
via.
you! You put all those couriers out of business.
No, we didn't, but the couriers evolved
Yeah.
and they changed what they were doing. And I think all technology goes through those stages, right? Where, you're either going to embrace new technology, adapt what you're doing, and every field, every client that I've worked with in the last 20 years has had some sort of adaptation as technology changes. We used to
Mm-hmm.
have flip phones, now we have smartphones. And it's just an adaptation of the workflow and the way work gets done. And for somebody who is an illustrator, that work is never going to go away. But if they know how to use AI to do things, imagine how much faster their job would be. Number one, you could program AI now to draw like you. So I just think it's more of a mindset that has to change with people. There's no, I mean, there are jobs that are eliminated by AI. Recently, I spoke to a group of nurses who lost their data entry job, medical like data entry to
Mm-hmm.
AI. And I thought, well, that's not nurses losing a nursing position.
Right.
That's a nurse who became a data entry person. So that's totally different conversation. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more the mindset, at
Yeah.
least from my opinion.
Well, I will be using AI for generating my books
Yes,
images, and
yes.
so it is what it is. Now, the actual inspiration for the book, Suzanne, was that phrase that kept going through my brain. But I have grandchildren now, so I have a
Mhm.
couple 4-year-old grandchildren and a 1-year-old,
Oh,
and it became kind
congratulations.
of a legacy project. So I wanted to
Yeah.
create a legacy that they could enjoy and would go on past my time on this earth,
Mhm.
and it just kind of evolved from there. So yeah, the first book was created based on that one initial phrase, which sillily I have not actually used in a real book yet.
Mm.
That was the inspiration, but I've not used that one in a book. But I wanted to make the book something that was fun, a shared experience between parents, grandparents, teachers, whatever, and children. And also, I kind of have a vision of making it essentially part of an educational curriculum in some way,
Mm.
because the A to Z part fits in with learning your alphabet.
Yes.
In the back of the book, there's some fun facts about the actual animals pictured. So they're going to learn about animals, and then they can go online to the website to get fun facts about all the animals. And there's some other fun activities online, like, word search puzzles and coloring pages and things like that. But, my vision is this is a brand that I'm creating, and the brand I'm calling the Laugh and Learn Library. And this is Games Animals Play is just the first book in the series.
Mm.
And I actually have another dozen books written. I mean, what animals
Wow.
drive, what animals dream, more games animals play, animals at Halloween, etc. And it's funny. I was in reading to a kindergarten class a couple months ago,
Mhm.
and I showed them this postcard that I have that shows some of the upcoming books or whatever.
Mhm.
And they took a vote And overwhelmingly, they said the next book in the series should be Animals at Halloween. So we know what
Oh,
kids want.
cute.
They want animals. They want animals at Halloween. But
Well, I have some great inspiration for animals at Halloween. My parents years ago had a miniature dachshund, the hot dog, and
uh-huh.
I dressed her up as a hot dog for Halloween. Now, at the time, my parents were visiting. I bought her this hot dog costume. My dog was a giant black Great Dane, and they were the best of friends.
Mm-hmm.
And when I envision a whole children's book about the miniature dachshund and the giant Great Dane and how they were friends, well, I dressed the Great Dane up as a horse because everybody thought he was a horse. And
Yeah.
when I tell you the kids that came to our house, um, and the excitement of seeing a hot dog dressed up as a hot dog, and my black Great Dane with a blonde horse's mane and a saddle, it was the highlight of that Halloween for
Sure.
me.
Now, did the dachshund cooperate and ride in the saddle on the Great
No,
Dane?
no, no, mm-mm. There was none of that. But um, you know, if you don't know much about dachshunds, they're very independent thinkers. The Great Dane would have done it, but she was having no part of it. So, well, I love that the kids chose that because I think, take this to any business. What your ideal client chooses is really what you need to sell next. So I love that business lesson wrapped right into what you said.
So again, this is going to be a series of books.
Mhm.
Eventually, I thought about doing some animations and maybe there could be cartoons based on the characters. And who knows
Mhm.
where it all goes. I'm just enjoying the
Yeah.
ride right now. I
Yeah.
mean, I played around with a little animation for marketing purposes of the book because it doesn't officially launch until August of 2026.
Okay.
Uh, but my bigger mission, honestly, Suzanne, is I decided for whatever reason I'm going to give away 1,000 copies of the book this year.
Nice.
So when I go in and read for the kindergartners or first graders, I give each kid a book. And when I,
Mhm.
go to the soup kitchen or the food pantry that I help out with, if there's kids coming through, they get a copy of the book. So I've given away about 380 so far. So I got a ways to go, but I
Nice.
wanted to have a philanthropic aspect to this whole journey too. So
Well, I love the heart behind that. I think so many times books are the real, well, speaking and books, two things that you know a lot about, are really the gateway to learning. And when kids have a love of reading and books, the sky's really the limit for them. So you're starting really early with that. I I want to talk a little bit about where this came from for you after your corporate career, after being the face of a business. Like, where did this drive come from at 65 when you started this?
well, as I said before, the thought of getting up every morning and saying, "What the hell am I going to do today?" wasn't
Right.
very appealing. So I wanted to keep my mind active. And when I got into the whole, can I generate a cartoon image of crickets playing croquet? It's like,
Mhm.
hey, this is creative. This is fun. I can keep the creative juices flowing. I can keep reaching out for things that weren't possible before, and keep myself involved.
Mhm.
And so not only is it created from the standpoint of getting to play with the AI on the computer and see what I can generate, and it's a little bit of work to do it the right way. I mean, if you've played with AI at all, it doesn't always give you the output that you're looking for. There's a lot of
Very true.
tweaking and back and forth and all that stuff. But I also wanted to utilize it as a way to get more involved in the community and meet
Yeah.
people and talk to people and all that. It's great fun going in and reading to the kids and having them
Yeah.
excited about the book and all that. And
Yeah.
so, you know,
And do you notice a difference with your personal like fulfillment and satisfaction level compared to when you spent all of those years, making physical products exist? Do you feel a different level of that within yourself?
I do, Suzanne, and I'm a pretty introverted person, and so
Really?
when I was in the speaking world, I had to step outside of my normal comfort zone to do what I was doing within that industry. Now, it got easier over time, certainly. I mean,
Mhm.
when I first started in the speaking industry, a guy called me up back in 1999 and asked me if I would handle the back sales deal before him at his first internet marketing conference. Well, I didn't even know what backroom sales meant, but I hadn't been to
Mm.
Las Vegas before. So I said, sure, I'll do that. And so that kind of led to a side business where I would provide the crew and, more importantly, the merchant account that could handle a lot of money in a short period of time. And we'd manage all the backroom sales. And we'd pay the promoter, we'd pay the speakers, and we'd take a cut of the sales for providing the service.
Wow.
Well, I got to know a lot of the big names in the internet and information marketing spaces, 25 years ago very well.
Mhm.
And one of them cornered me at an event and said, hey, Brett, will you do some product fulfillment for me? Because I need it and it's not something I want to do. And I'd been thinking about it for a while because it was a natural outgrowth of all the people that I knew in the speaking industry. So that's when the company was formed, called Speaker Fulfillment Services. And I was happy being the behind the scenes guy, the back of the room guy, Suzanne. I had no desire to get up on the stage and talk because that wasn't my comfort zone whatsoever. But eventually I said, Brett, you need to get over that and get up on stage because you do have some information to share with people. And so I was kind of actually forced into it, Suzanne. I was part of a group called the Seminar Marketing Alliance back in the mid 2000s. I don't remember the exact date.
Uh-huh.
And a product was created and a live event was going to occur to surround the launch of that particular product. And they said, hey, Brett, you're doing a talk for 90 minutes on how to increase back of the room sales. I said, okay, I guess I can do that. So wasn't comfortable, but I did it.
Mhm.
And so I eventually started speaking on more stages and all that about book publishing or speaking or mistakes that authors make or mistakes that information marketers make or whatever they needed. Now, I was not what they call a platform seller, Suzanne. I was a content only session,
Mm.
35, 45 minutes to break up the platform sellers so there wasn't pitch
Okay.
after pitch after pitch.
Mhm.
Because it definitely totally changes the dynamics of speaking if you're making an offer from the stage, whether if you're
Right.
just delivering content. Totally changes the dynamics. So I
Mhm.
got, fairly comfortable doing that. Now I haven't done a stage presentation in a while. I probably would still get quite nervous these days or whatever, but I'm comfortable speaking on podcasts and all that. I don't trip over my tongue too often. But, it's about sharing things that will help other people. And one of the biggest challenges I had to overcome, Suzanne, and you probably experienced this yourself, is trying to overteach. You know so much about so many things, and you want to share everything you know with the world because it
Mhm.
might benefit them. And so you throw 10, 12, 13 things at them when they can only really grasp, three. So,
Mhm.
figuring out what those three key things are that you're going to share with that audience is the challenge. And
Yeah.
I probably overtaught quite a bit early on in my speaking career, but
Same.
you live and you learn and you move forward. And so,
Yeah, I
there's
I I resonate with that a lot because I don't think I'm a motivational speaker. I might be a little inspirational, but I definitely default to more teaching and stories about teaching and
Mhm.
stories about what I'm talking about, actual examples. And I noticed, probably 5 or 6 years ago that the back of the room sales part always got neglected because I was so rich in the teaching part. And so I would forget to actually sell anything at
Yeah.
one of these things. And I notice a lot of entrepreneurs do that same thing. And it's either, the whole time is a sales pitch and I don't even want to attend, or the opposite. it's all teaching and you forget to sell yourself. So I think
Yep.
there's really a fine line and balance there of information, how and why and what, but not not giving away too much at one time, because people cannot absorb, and we take for granted how much we know.
Hmm.
um and the audience really isn't there yet. So, such a powerful reminder. Thank you so much. Um, do you want to touch on a little bit about this idea of back of the room sales and what that can mean, not only for entrepreneurs, but like for your business now? You know, obviously you have this charitable, part of your business. You want to give away 1,000 books. I can definitely help with that. Anybody that wants a copy of your book, I'll make sure that happens. But when you really think about making sales online, how is it different offline for that back of the room idea?
Well, are we talking about a speaker in a live event type scenario? Okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right. So, one of the questions that I'm often asked is, I want to be a speaker. Should I be a keynote speaker or should I be a platform seller? What kind of speaker
mm,
should I be? And there's three types in my mind: the platform seller that we're familiar with, the keynote we're familiar with, and what I call the business builder speaker, the person who just speaks for, they're an electrician, a plumber, a financial planner, whatever it may be. They're
mhm,
just speaking to local audiences to build awareness of what they do and with the hope that somebody will need what they have at some point in time. If you can master the art of selling from the platform, by and large, in most cases, you'll make far more money as a platform seller than you ever will as a keynote speaker. Now,
yeah,
you got to decide what's right for you. I mean, some people make nice living doing keynote speaking. Some people have mastered the hybrid and can do both, but you got to decide what's right for you. But I had a colleague once, Suzanne, who in one 90-minute presentation, it was in the UK, did sold $975,000 worth of what he was offered at
wow,
one speaking engagement.
wow,
Now, by the time he split that with the promoter, and I'm sure there was returns and all that, he probably walked away with $300,000 or $400,000, but not too bad for a 90-minute
mm,
piece of work or whatever.
yeah,
But if you're selling from the stage, there's a couple things you got to keep in mind, more than a couple actually. But number one, your first obligation is to deliver solid content to that audience. I mean, yes, you're going to make an offer, but 85 to 90% of your time up on stage needs to be sharing content, giving value to the audience. Only the last 10 to 15% is you sliding into your pitch and making your offer.
yeah,
Now, one of the mistakes that speakers certainly make is you have that audience's attention and all that. Well, there's more than one mistake they make. Number one, they don't have a high ticket item to sell. And if these
mhm,
events, the event promoter expects, because you're typically splitting your backroom sales with the event promoter 50-50 in most cases. Now, sometimes
mhm,
it varies, but 50-50 is the typical. And so if you're selling a $30 product, well, the event promoter isn't going to be terribly excited about having you on the stage because they're not going to make any money from your efforts.
yeah,
So you got to have $1,000 or $2,000 or even $5,000 product, whether it's coaching, consulting, a membership site, whatever it may be. You got to have a higher ticket item, keeping in mind that you've got to split part of that with the promoter. Now, I've seen speakers get up and do a wonderful job from stage, and then they offer tell the audience to go to Amazon to buy their book. Well, number one, you probably shouldn't be selling your book from the stage. You need to have that higher ticket item. But
mhm,
number two, if you're going to sell a book, by by God, send them to your own website to buy the book or in the back of the room,
ah,
because you tell people to go to Amazon. Does Amazon call you up, Suzanne, and say, "Hey, Suzanne, so and so bought your book. Here's the information so you can go sell
no,
something else, other products or
no,
services"?
no,
They do not. So you're missing an opportunity to capture their name and address,
mhm,
and therefore be able to follow up with them according with other products or
yeah,
services that you may have.
yeah,
But that book, in most cases, if you have a book, it should be a marketing tool primarily. It's got to be your front end product. and it's got to be designed to draw people to your website. So you got to have what we call bounce backs in that book, where
Yes.
it's some type of ethical bribe. Here's a free report. Here's some more information about such and such. Go to my website, opt in, and we'll send that to you. Because if you don't use that book as a marketing tool, then probably in most cases, it's effort wasted. You're not going to make as much, Yes, there is a bestseller that comes along every once in a while in a whirlwind and makes a lot of money off their book. But if you're into the nonfiction world, you've got a self-help book, a how-to book, whatever, then you've got to use that as a marketing tool and drive them to your site so you can capture their info. And the speaker that doesn't do that, or the person that doesn't do that in any environment, is missing out on a great opportunity.
Oh, I couldn't agree more with this. And I think two of the best examples I've come across in recent years was one book. It's a business book, and it's not even important what book, because it didn't really apply to me. It was the structure of it. And every chapter had a link at the end of the chapter, and you went to that link, and it was the worksheet to actually do the work the chapter was recommending on your business. And I was like, okay, note to self, I'm going to have some of that in my book. And the other one was a book funnel, exactly going to what you said, Bret, about not sending people to Amazon to buy your book. Amazon's great and wonderful, but if you're going to use a book as a marketing tool, I found this book funnel that is on somebody's website, and the book was $197 to get a copy of it. And it was the only way you could buy it. And the book was actually a coaching program. And when I tell you the genius behind this, he didn't want to sell a course. He didn't want to sell, some online group coaching program. He put all of his wisdom in this book. You bought it through the funnel. You became part of the community. And in the book, so I actually bought the book and didn't know that it was an actual coaching program. You read 4 chapters, and then there's a 7-day journey. Then you read 4 more chapters, and there's a 21-day journey. You read 4 more chapters, and there's a chapter by chapter homework assignments. And I just thought it was one of the most unique ways for a coach to market what they do, give it all away, and he's still ending up with high ticket clients at the end of that book. And so what would you say to somebody who's afraid to give it all away in their book, in lieu of, selling a course or selling a group coaching program?
That's a real fear that a lot of information marketers certainly have, is giving away too much up front. And, I don't think there's any real easy answer to that question, Suzanne. I mean, it's what you're comfortable with. Certainly if people love what you have in your book, there will be some percentage of people that want more from you, whatever it is. Right. And obviously you got to figure out what that's going to be, but you almost can't give away too much in the first piece of information that you put out there. Now, that makes me think of something. So, one of the key concepts about selling information in any form is that of perceived value. And, you take a book, and here's one of the books that I co-wrote in my business, Career Mistakes Authors Make. Well, what's the perceived value of a book? $15 to $20 generally, or whatever. That's the perceived value. I mean, that's what people expect to pay. You can take the exact same content that's in this book, format it in 8.5 by 11 pages, put it in a 3-ring binder. Now it's got a perceived value of $97, $197, whatever it may be. Exact same content, but just because you changed the format, it has a higher perceived value.
Mhm.
add some audio content to it, or video content or whatever, maybe some one-on-one, coaching or whatever. Now it's got a perceived value of hundreds or thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Content identical, but just because you changed the format and how you presented it, it has a higher perceived value to the learner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the water bottle that's 99 cents at Walmart, and, at the movie theater, it's $4, and on a plane, it's $16.
Yeah.
I just had an experience while traveling last week. I wanted a bottle of water and in the airport, and it's a type of water called Smart Water,
Mhm.
electrolytes. I buy it often, and typically the large bottle is between $3 and $5. And in the airport, it was $16.
Oh yeah.
Same water, same bottle, just different environment. So,
Yeah.
such a good lesson for entrepreneurs to really think about what rooms are you selling your product in, and then
Mhm.
what is the makeup. I bought something one time that was a 3-ring binder of a coaching program. The coaching program itself was $100,000. The 3-ring binder of the content was $1,000.
Yeah.
And I thought, $1,000. I'm getting all the information that's from that coaching program. I don't need the coaching. I just want the information. So for me, it was the perfect investment, and
Yeah.
I think knowing your audience really helps with
Yeah.
that. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
such a good
My
tip.
wife and I took my granddaughter to Toy Story 5 a couple weeks ago, and so we
Oh,
got to
don't give
experience
away anything. Don't tell
we
me
got
anything.
we got to
Don't
experience one of those $10 sodas.
Yes. Yes, yes. Um, all right. Well, now I have a really serious question about a business, or like a legacy, right? There's something behind what you're doing right now. Grandchildren, legacy, um really thinking about this idea that you have, um and the fact that you have the technical skill is magical. But when you think about the next 10 years for you, what's next, and what does that look like? Is it just a business, or are you truly building that legacy for your grandchildren?
Well, I think I'm truly building the legacy, but not just for my grandchildren. I
Mm.
honestly see it as something that is incorporated into classrooms at the kindergarten and first grade level. I was actually a couple months ago reading to some kindergartners, the ones that voted for Halloween,
Mhm.
and I was doing a couple different kindergarten classes at one of the local elementary schools. And so I read to one class and went down to read to the other class. And when it came back to the original classroom, they'd already scanned the QR code in the back of the book, and they were online reading through the fun facts about all the animals. So it's
Mhm.
like, man, this could be something that goes above and beyond that. I mean, I see cartoons based on these characters at some point in time where there's a learning lesson with the cartoon. I
Mhm.
actually created a book that I'm kind of a branch out from this whole thing. I took the hippos, who are I mean, here's they're the cover stars of the book, the
Uh-huh.
hippos, whatever. But H is for hippopotamus, so I have the hippopotamuses introduce 25 words that begin with the letter H for little kids. And
Oh,
obviously, you could
cool.
you could you could do that with each letter that's in the thing. So the alligators introduce A words, etc. So
Yeah,
I hope to have some fun with that. I mean, like I said, we'll just see where the journey takes us, Suzanne. I mean,
I love it.
a lot of people are big planners ahead of time. I'm just kind of like, all right, here's what we're doing now, and go. So we'll see where it goes.
Well, so admirable. And I would love my audience to take away 3 things from this conversation: that, not only did you embrace AI for this project, which is rare over 50. So that's one incredible thing. Um, 2, the barrier to starting a new business idea and a new thing, you conquered that. And the way that you've allowed the books to creatively kind of come out is amazing. And so really in a later stage in life, that third chapter in life that we're both in, I think it's so exciting to reimagine what you want that to look like. And you've done such a beautiful job, which is why I wanted to have this conversation with you. And if you have a final thing to say to my audience, words of wisdom for this journey, what would it be?
All right. So I want to touch on something different than what we've talked about thus far, Suzanne. And that
Mhm.
is, in my opinion, your most important asset, business wise and personal wise, are the relationships that you have,
Mm.
that you developed over the course of your career, your personal life, whatever. Because it's the people that really know you, like you, trust you, that will become your biggest supporters, your biggest input for good ideas, etc.
Yeah.
And the books that I've done in the past, a couple of them became Amazon bestsellers, and it was largely due to relationships. If there hadn't been people that had been in my circle and happy to support those efforts, they wouldn't have become bestsellers.
Yeah.
So you gotta nurture relationships carefully. I'm a big fan of handwritten note cards to people to acknowledge what they've done for you, and you got to certainly approach relationships from the standpoint of, first of all, what can I
Yeah.
do for them? If you
Love it.
go in with the attitude, what can they do for me? It ain't gonna work. And if you truly go in with a giving attitude, it will come back to you tenfold over time. But relationships are your most viable, most important asset, business wise, personal wise. So treat them with kid gloves and make sure that you manage them the right way.
Well, that resonates deeply with my heart and the way I operate in the world. So thank you for sharing that. It's so much deeper than books or AI or business. That's actually who you are as a person. So thank you for that. How can my listeners get in touch with you and find out more about the Laugh and Learn series?
So the Laugh and Learn Library is going to be a series of books aimed at toddlers 2 to 5. The primary website is laughandlearnlibrary.com. That's where you can find the other fun activities, the fun facts about the animals. You can pre-order the first book. If you'd like an author-signed copy, you can order it on the website. It will be on your major online booksellers soon, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, etc.
Nice.
But laughandlearnlibrary.com is the primary website, and would love for people to join the journey.
I love it. Laugh and Learn library.com. You said, right? I'm going to put it right on
Yes,
the
ma'am.
screen. And let me do that. There we go. Laugh and Learn library.com. Thank you so much, Bret, for joining me here on Unlock Your Way with STK. And even though we haven't spoken in a little over 2 years, incredible. I feel like I know you at a deeper level now. So thank you for sharing that with my audience. I
Well,
appreciate you.
thank you so much for having me with you today, Suzanne.
You're so welcome. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you in 2 weeks on another live episode of Unlock Your Way with STK.